DeFi Slate team.
What's up, y'all? Real quick, if you like the DeFi Slate content on Twitter and YouTube and Substack, please give us a like and a subscribe on this video on YouTube. Join our channel, join the community. We'd really appreciate it. We're pumping this stuff out for y'all as much as we can, and we really enjoy the support and the community that we've built. Thank you very much and enjoy.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 34 of the DeFi by Design podcast. We are here today on Tuesday, May 4th, a day before the Uniswap V3 listing. Of course, when you're listening to this, it'll probably be towards the middle of the month, and V3 will be fully live. There's so many catalysts coming up for the Ethereum ecosystem in DeFi. L2, we got Gary V is launching NFTs tomorrow. He's been hyping up ETH so much. He literally had a blog post that had how to buy ETH, how to get MetaMask, just been blowing it up all over the place. The market's going absolutely nuts. And today we are here with 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵, the co-founder of Argent. This is the first wallet I ever had in DeFi, my first entrance into DeFi. I can thank 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 for the airdrop of Uni, which I received, thankfully. You know, that was absolutely awesome. Just tossed like $10 into the Uniswap pool back in like June 2020, and here we come with like $4,000 one day. But anyways, Argent is a mobile app, all things DeFi, and so we're gonna get into what's going on with layer 2, how to use Argent to get some yield, what is the future of these mobile wallets, and kind of just all things Ethereum and DeFi. Of course, here with Robbie today as well. Robbie, what's going on? Happy Tuesday. The markets are green.
Yep, markets are green. Skies are blue. Everything's looking good. Yeah. So super stoked to be talking to 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵. I know they are making plenty of strides in the wallet space. It's your traditional smart contract wallet, but they're mobile based. And they're working on all kinds of cool stuff, not just layer 2, which, pretty much everyone in the industry is working on at this point, but also some of the pressing issues in custody, multi-sig wallets, which are going to really come in handy when you need, beneficiaries for your wallet and you want to really be safe with your funds. So I'm super excited to be talking to 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 and more about how the wallet space is progressing in DeFi. What's going on, 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵? How you doing today?
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me. And yes, lot to talk about today.
Yeah, dude. So how did you come up with the idea for Argent? Like what was kind of the origin there? Like where were you when you were like, all right, we got to create this?
Origin story of Argent. 2016, I have a startup, Peak Brain Training. We're the largest mobile brain training application, 60 million users, running a large subscription business. At that time, I started to hear about blockchain. So quite late, Gerald and Julian, who are my two co-founders at Argent, tell me about the tech. They don't talk about Bitcoin or Ethereum. They tell me about blockchain. It goes through one ear, goes through the others. I don't listen too much about it, and we were too busy with the business. Then December 2016, we sell the business to a large book publisher. We get an OFAC flag on the transfer, so a big multi-million-dollar transfer being frozen by a US bank. A month of investor asking where is the money. And so that was the first maybe realization that our money is not really our money. We need to ask permission to use it. Then the money finally arrives. It was obviously a mistake by the bank. So many middlemen, so many third parties in the flow that someone made a mistake and froze the transfer. Money arrives. I had an employee who kept telling me about that new project in the crypto space. We tried Ethereum. And he tells me you have to buy that thing. I finally have some. I didn't listen to him at the time of ICO. I didn't have the money. I finally get some cash, buy ETH. I buy it on Kraken. That's the only place I could do KYC. And that was early 2017. Buy a hardware wallet. Literally have my employee doing it with me. I unpack it. I write down the seed phrase. I do this whole mess. I transfer from Kraken to the hardware wallet. And I'm like, I remember it was the Etherscan at the time. It took literally one block. It was instant and it cost nothing. And I was like, wow, I just moved money There was no middleman. It was amazing. I called Gerald and Julian. I tell them, look, you were right. That thing is the future. I've worked in payment. I've worked at Amazon before. I've worked at Visa in payment. I understand payment, and that money moving that way was just magic. We spent some time relearning, I would say probably a full year, learning about the space. We knew we wanted to be very a consumer product. We didn't come from finance, we came from consumer. Having a mobile app with millions of users is what Gerald and I knew. Julia came from security. We thought about dApps and all that, then we realized this space will not work if people need to put a seed phrase under the mattress. So this cannot be the future of finance or your future identity online. If it relies on that, we felt we were on the track where centralized exchange would win. So we said we need to solve that. We need to create a fully non-custodial, simple, and highly secure experience that anyone at some point could use. And that's how Argent started.
Nice. And I think one of the biggest parts of that non-custodial and ease of use experience with Argent that I've seen is the social aspect, where you can have the recovery of your wallet and kind of the safety secured through your peers. I think that's kind of like an influential concept within the blockchain space and the open source just space, is this idea of like trustlessly helping people in the space, in the community itself, in comparison to just having a seed phrase under your bed or in a safe, right?
Yeah, definitely. That was, I think, what kicked off Argent idea. It was, we really looked around new ways to secure your assets. And the fact that even though it's non-custodial, you need a safety net. With your bank, if you lose your card, you can call them. If someone accesses your account, try to drain it, your bank is likely to call it. And so it's how can we embed that safety net in the software, and basically smart contracts were the solution. We started with Guardian, a mix of inputs. There was already at the time of Bitcoin a paper from Gunn on Vault and how you could use multi-sig Bitcoin to create that kind of experience. Actually, Banker is the first team that talked about Guardians. I don't think many people knew that, but I met one of the founders in London. We started chatting, and this whole concept came into play. And then we started with social recovery. And when you think about it, it's the same then calling your bank, say, hey, I lost my card, freeze it, send me a new one. The difference is you will decide who to trust, whether it's friends, family, whether you want to trust Argent or you want to trust yourself with a hardware wallet or 3 hardware wallets.
Yeah, and I think most of our listeners are probably most familiar with MetaMask, which is again a non-custodial wallet to hold Ethereum tokens, ERC20 tokens, but they don't have that social recovery feature. Also, you guys are mobile optimized. What are some of the other features that you guys have over and above just a Google Chrome plug-in type of wallet like MetaMask?
So the way Argent today on layer 1 is really aimed at people with a lot of assets. Everything is expensive. It costs a lot to transact. Argent is a smart contract, so it costs to use it. And so we really focus on people who want to secure a lot of assets. MetaMask is a tool I use regularly. I see it as a developer tool. I use it a lot. If you want to store a lot of assets, that seed phrase is a massive weakness. And even with a hardware wallet, people ask me about security of the hardware wallet. It doesn't matter. It's how secure is the drawer in which you put that seed phrase. How secure or good is that ink? Will it disappear after 5 years? And it's just, we want a solution that works short-term for users with a lot of funds, but where we can imagine a long-term future with billions of users. And maybe a step back on how this, I didn't really explain how Guardian works, but basically with Argent, you have a wallet, it's on your mobile phone. You can transact the way you would with any wallet. But for untrusted actions, anything that is trusted, you do it immediately, one tap on your phone. What is trusted is, for example, you can set few addresses as trusted. You can say your Coinbase address, your hardware wallet address, and maybe a family member, they are trusted address. I save them and I set on chain really that I can send funds to them. Therefore, to them, you can send a limited amount of money. It takes you a second, no effort. But then if you want to do an untrusted action, sent to an address you have never interacted with, you will need an extra approval. You will need, basically you use your guardian's extra signature to validate you are you, and therefore the contracts will trust you to take that action. And why is that important? That means if I have your private key, I cannot steal your funds. If I have your private key, the only thing I can do is send your own money to your own account on Coinbase, or send it maybe to your own hardware wallet. I cannot drain your account, which is very similar to what will happen with your bank.
Yeah, it would take the seed, right? You would need the seed in addition to the private coin.
No, even with the seed, the Argent, the entire model of Argent is with your seed phrase, you are still, I have your seed phrase, I'm still protected. If I steal your seed phrase, I try to make a transaction, the smart contract will say, this is not a trusted action, please approve it with your guardians, and you don't control my guardians. So it's really multi-sig when you need it. It's not multi-sig. In majority of the case, it's super simple, goes through, and it's multi-sig when you take an untrusted action. And this is valid for dApps. Argent integrates natively in the app. You can put money in savings like Compound, Aave. You can stake your ETH in Lido. You can trade with Paraswap, and all those actions are trusted, and therefore you go through instantly. You want to do some farming on a dApp you have never used, you use Wallet Connect, and you will approve these actions with your guardians. Yeah. And this works the same with recovery. You lose your phone or it's stolen, you get a new phone, you set it up, you ask your guardians to trigger the recovery, and you get back access to your wallet after 48 hours. So it's really, everything is simple, few taps on your phone, but extremely secure, because even if your private key is compromised, you are protected.
Now, I guess this is kind of my last question on actually how Argent works and how it's different from some of the other wallets that are out there. One of the largest issues that other people just more in the traditional space have brought up to me is that there's no capability for a beneficiary. And it seems like you guys are really tapping the door on solving that issue, where if there's not, it's a multi-sig. So the person who owns the wallet still has to initiate the transaction. But if there's the private keys that are passed, and then there's a way for beneficiaries to authenticate with the guardians, then it seems like that issue is solved. And now there's a reasonable chain of people that can really absorb these funds. For instance, if someone dies, right? Like that's going to happen. Like people are going to make a lot of crypto, not want to sell it, and just pass it on to people. How do we solve that issue?
So you're totally right, and that's one of the topics we discussed at Argent very early on. We didn't build yet an offering around that. Technically, it's the guardians. It's the same model. So today is just something that the user would have to handle themselves. So for example, if you have 2 family members as guardians, no problem. If you tell them that's my will, they can follow your will, and then maybe your children, your spouse, they get a phone and they start a recovery, and these guardians will approve them, will approve that recovery, and it will work. You could imagine going a step further. That's what I mean by a more bespoke offering. Is right now Argent can be a guardian, but so you can trust Argent and say, you have a key, you are my you will be my guardian. We don't have yet a process country per country that will look at the legality of the documents. So, okay, this is the new trustee, and I will approve. I will have a special process. Everything is in place from a technical perspective. It's much more about off-chain processes to look at you would probably do KYC. I would need to know your identity. Today, Argent has no clue who you are. So I cannot say, okay, this is the proof of, this is the will, this is the beneficiary. We would have to create all those processes off-chain, but it's definitely something supported by the Guardian model. Today, people do it more ad hoc basis. They have some guardians they control, hardware wallet, MetaMask, and then some guardians that would be trusted family member that they would only use for such a scenario.
Right. Yeah, that kind of brings us to this idea and mental model of kind of how to use and manage your funds as a DeFi and crypto holder, right? So the way that I kind of see it working out for a lot of people is you've got like, your hardware wallet, which is basically like your savings account, it probably doesn't get touched much. If it's connected to your MetaMask or via Wallet Connect on any app, right, you can obviously use it, but that's kind of like your bank account, like your savings, like your lifeblood. And then you've got your MetaMasks and your all your Google Chrome extensions for any different chain, right? Those are kind of like your trading, like your active wallets that you're just using to basically make money and to invest and to yield farm and stuff. And then you've got like these, like your, I guess, like your day-to-day spending money and kind of like your, all of your mobile DeFi, right? And so the way I kind of see it and the vision of what these three sectors allow is kind of like a segmented approach to security, but also a very, very convenient way to live and manage your crypto funds throughout your life. Now, right now with Argent, obviously this concept of paying your friends, you know, $20 for the popcorn and the movie isn't quite there due to the L1. But as the layer 2 comes along and you know, as we start to scale Ethereum, is this kind of like an accurate model that you kind of want to see for Argent being kind of a crypto version of a Cash App or a Venmo, where it could just be used quickly on the go with friends and family, you know, but you have your hardware wallets for your savings accounts and your online wallets on the desktop for kind of like your more investing stuff. You know, is that kind of where you see Argent headed?
So we see really we see the lines between these different type of account blowing out. So right now, more and more users in Argent have like several millions of dollars. We have people with more than 50 millions of dollars. We have 400 or 500 millions of dollars in Argent, secured through Argent. And because people tend to not realize that if you are really good at OPSEC, and if really you master that world, yes, you can be really secure with hardware wallet, but actually the room for mistake is massive. You make one typo, one little error in the address you send, everything is lost. You sign a transaction. It happened to a founder in London from one of the DeFi protocol. They lost millions of dollars because they signed a transaction that was a hack basically of their MetaMask account that made them sign something else.
We talked to him. We talked to Hugh from Nexus, and he went through it a little bit and how, you know, it was the MetaMask that came up, and it was just someone that had previously had access to his MetaMask, and it came through a company's email. And yeah, it was really
it's so opaque. You have that little USB stick, you're pushing on a button, you don't know what you sign. In Argent, the level of confidence is way higher. It's actually much less stress to transact. It's simple. You transact because if you transact to a trusted address, it doesn't matter. You do it in 5 seconds. You don't have to worry, because if it's not a trusted address, even if the UI, someone, I don't know, hack your phone and show you a certain address on your phone, but in fact you're sending to another, you know what? Doesn't matter. The smart contract will block that. The smart contract will say you are sending to a non-trusted address. It's not going through. So you really have the security of multi-sig when you need it. And multi-sig is where the biggest institutional funds, large companies, all the dApp you use, they store their funds on multi-sigs. The Ethereum Foundation stores their fund on multi-sig. And now you have individual users with a lot of funds that can have the same security. And so we don't differentiate anymore cold and hot storage that way. For us, it's more L1, L2. L1, if you have a lot of funds where it's worth transacting and maybe you will need the very latest DeFi protocol. L2, at start, you will have limited subset maybe of functionalities, not all DeFi protocol, but that becomes Cash App. And that's our vision. We don't like that what we are doing is limited, is very exclusive today. But it's a step. We know what the future will be. We know that we are talking about a non-custodial, decentralized financial system that is global, permissionless. That's what we are all excited about. It's how do we get there. On L1, we had to make concession on that. On L2, we are becoming this fully decentralized Cash App. And that's where the fun begins, I would say.
Yeah, so basically then in that instance, when you get to this L2, right, as this is growing and you've got users being able to send transactions quickly, effectively gas-free, what kind of happens when, say, I'm going to do something with a friend who I don't yet have on Argent, and say, I want to have them be paid, $20 for like a popcorn and a movie, but they're not in my address book yet. Will will my guardian then have to approve such a small transaction? Or is there a capability in which we'd be able to set like, okay, if the transaction is under X dollar amount, then there's no need for guardian approval, in this much time span? Or, how do you tackle the problem of new addresses for like small kind of day-to-day transactions?
So what you described is exactly how Argent used to be 2 weeks ago. And then
exactly.
on L1, it's been a few months, it doesn't happen. People do not transfer $10, $20 anymore. It's not worth it. On L2, we are starting differently. So on L2, you will not need guardian approval for transaction. It will be you will be able to transact the way you want, and guardians and the whole L1 model will be there mostly for recovery. So still no seed phrase. Because we make the assumption that at start people do not have $1 million on L2. And then as we are working on ZK Sync, they're adding smart contract capabilities. We'll add more and more of these functionalities. And so the goal really is for L2 to be super viral, super easy. You should be able to pay to share pizza with a friend. And as you pay him, you are basically inviting them at the same time to the app and making payment. All the use cases, we were excited, and we saw them because Argent in the early days was paying for gas. It was super cheap, and we saw.
Oh, we remember that, 𝗵𝗻.
It was amazing, and it was amazing for us, not because just we got users, because everyone was using their wallet every day. People would do this $1. We had removed every friction except the cost right now. When we had the cost down, then really people were using constantly. 90% of our users would use DeFi. If they got $10 in their wallet, bam, I put it in Compound. It was fun. People loved it. They were spreading that. And with L2, that's where we want to get back, basically.
Yeah. And one thing Andy brought up about kind of the segmented approach to security there, as we start to kind of lay those layers on top of each other, the L1 solution, L2, do we lose that segmented approach? Or because the reason is if everything is in Argent, right? And Argent allows us to split between these layers. Is it still segmented because we're between L1, L2, different rollups, and maybe even different L1s? Or is it, really isolated by everything being in Argent?
So on day one, we are still relatively segmented. You will have a new type of account, the L2 account, and then you will have your vault that you might not, the current Argent L1 wallet. You pay for it to deploy the smart contract. That's really the premium, highly secure offering. Not everyone will have it, but it's very segmented at start. We see a world, so we are starting with ZK Sync natively in the wallet. You launch Argent, you will be in a ZK Sync wallet. But we believe there will be several layer 2s. We will start probably through Wallet Connect, allow you to interact with the like of Optimism, Arbitrum, all the Starkware implementation, so 𝗬𝗿𝗍𝗂, 𝗬𝗍𝗂. That's the plan to have really all these options, and they will be relatively segmented. We see a future when then we can get all of that into a single unified experience, but that will take more time.
Yeah, and then you can even start to think about like the multi-chain world now. Kind of Argent aside, but of course it's still relevant to this thesis. Is this decentralized smart contract infrastructure that we're creating is obviously big on Ethereum, right? We all hold Ethereum here. We all do DeFi in Ethereum, right? Argent is built on top of Ethereum, but ultimately the name of the game with decentralization it forces a multi-chain world. That is literally I guess it's like the actual definition of decentralization to me is like multi-chain. It's like you can't just have one chain and call it decentralized, because then the people don't have a chance to get to other chains. I guess it's like where I'm getting at. So point is, this decentralized multi-chain world, is that something that you firmly agree and align with, or are you kind of like, okay, let's keep everything in one smart contract ecosystem and kind of decentralize it from there? Like, I guess what I'm asking is how do you align on the decentralization spectrum when it comes to multi-chain world?
So on one hand, so we're not married to Ethereum, and that's the only option, and closing all the other doors. For us, technically, implementing layer 2 or other L1 is similar kind of work. So we are building a lot of the abstraction layer within Argent for all the tech needed so we can launch more layer 2s, but that could apply to layer 1. However, what we are not doing is just adding every chain opportunistically, because Argent's mission is really to give everyone everywhere in the world ownership of their digital assets and identity. So we believe in a permissionless, decentralized financial system. And our bet is that, our bet is permissionless. Because permissionless, anyone can launch a product, adapt, and that means there will be 100 times more innovation in the traditional financial system. But for that, we need a global financial settlement layer. We think right now Ethereum is by far the best shot at it. So what we are not doing is, for example, implementing every L1 just to have the native token. We don't even have Bitcoin because there's not much you can build on top. And therefore, right now, it's not a priority. Most of the new L1 have smart contracts, so of course it's more interesting, but the decentralization is important. We don't know what, and it's just not, people think it's philosophical, user don't care.
Yeah.
It's not really true. User, first, yes, when you have 1,000% yield, they might not care, but security is something you only care when bad things happen. And decentralization should be replaced by the word security. It's about how secure is the chain, how censorship resistant is the chain, and censorship can be government, but it can just be a private company. So I don't know if ETH will be the winning L1. I can tell you that government across the world and banks across the world are unlikely to use, for example, Binance chain as their L1. And I don't think Binance believes that. They agree that there was a need for a short-term solution. They provide that, that's great. And so that's why we made our decision today on L2 around maintaining Ethereum security and finality. And that's why these rollups were important for us. That's valid for Starkware, for zk, Optimism, Arbitrum, there are other, Hermes is one of them. And so it's really having, maintaining that security and that we have today on L1 with Ethereum level of decentralization and security.
Yeah. And then when you can combine that ability to have a super strong and secure and robust network with ease of use and convenience with layer 2, I mean, you've got everything that you really theoretically need. You know, and in my ideal world, once L2 is on Argent and it becomes kind of this cash app of crypto, you know, I'd like to see start to be able to use this app, you know, at stores, at the grocery store, at different you know places where they either accept crypto or some sort of dollar way. Now I know there's like crypto credit cards and debit cards, and obviously there's not a lot of places that accept crypto right now. But do you see a world where, you know, I can go to the convenience store with my Argent app and either use some sort of Argent card or use some sort of transformation on Argent where it like converts to dollars or something and then spends, you know, at a store? Like, is that something that you've thought about as far as applying, you know, using the app, not just in DeFi, but also in the world, and, you know, giving users a way to be able to go to stores, you know, and kind of fulfill that vision?
Yeah, so you couldn't be more spot on. That's definitely, I'm smiling because that's something probably we've discussed in the last 48 hours again. And in some way, I believe there is a bigger, so L2 payment at start will still have a cost, and gas can still do 100x from now. So it will cost a few cents, and I think it's actually more competitive when you think about in-store payment compared to peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer, you need to be free. To pay friends, you really need to be free. Cash App, Venmo, all that. In store, when you start comparing to interchange and fees for Visa, MasterCard, etc., layer 2 payment starts to be very competitive. I think things we didn't believe would happen a year ago, things are moving very fast. And what happened in the last few months is really that crypto gained a new level of legitimacy. I think the world has accepted that crypto is here to stay, and things are really changing in how people see this. And therefore, yes, I think payment in store is really something that that can happen. And at Argent, that's really what we care. Yes, this world of pure speculation and let's be rich very quick. Yes, I know it's euphoric and we're all excited, but that's not the end goal. And we see our layer 2 launch is important for us, not just because it's you know, broadening what we can do and the user base. It's the end of a certain era at Argent. We see it as SpaceX trying to fly the rocket and landing back. And once they did it once, they knew it was possible. And for us, we are still working on all this very foundational tech around security, around the core wallet. Once we have L2, we can start to have fun. We can start to think about launching all these features user wants, about paying friends in restaurant, going in a store, around all the coolest experience for DeFi protocol. All that's actually easy to build for us compared to what we are doing now. But we are so focused on this foundational tech. And this year is really the end of that phase of foundational tech, and we can, the speed to which we'll be shipping feature to user will really increase tenfold, because we'll be done with the harder part, basically.
Yeah, and you know, you guys aren't going to have to sacrifice security when you start making these scalability improvements. You know, like you said, you already tackled the tough security issues that were probably coming up firsthand, and the more mainstream user that's only sending $20, $30 at a time, they take that for granted, and they don't really realize what's happening behind the scenes, which is super cool to see. We got a question in our Telegram chat, just to switch gears just a bit. And Andres is curious when an integrated browser is coming for Argent.
So
you guys have on the table.
We've always kind of pushed back on that. Few things. I mean, first, let's be clear, there's question of prioritization. We've been working on such fundamental important pieces of tech that we never got to really dive into that. But also, we're not convinced that's the right experience. We know Wallet Connect today is not perfect. Wallet Connect V2 is literally around the corner. Is really in alpha. There might be some beta testing happening now. It's really there, and it really changes the experience. And we don't think, I mean, I agree short term it would be very convenient, but in the future, I don't think people should pick their browser based on the backend infrastructure the website uses. You don't have an AWS or a Google Cloud browser, and Ethereum is just that. You will be in a dApp. Oh, okay, you need to log in with Argent. It will open Argent, you log in, you are back in it. What Wallet Connect can achieve, I think, is really the right experience, and it works in Chrome, it works in Safari, it works in Brave, whatever browser you have, and you shouldn't have to change that. I know we're not yet there, but I think give it a few more months and the experience will be there.
Just real quick, we might want to connect you with our friends over at Pocket, because they are removing that data layer from like AWS and removing that central choke point to a lot of these projects that claim to be decentralized but ultimately rely on Cloudflare and AWS. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Pocket, yeah, I suggest checking them out.
Yeah, they just got a bunch of funding. I mean, people love the idea. It's obviously a little bit early stage over there. It's not as easy as it sounds to just, completely overhaul the AWS ecosystem. However, it's definitely a step in the right direction for kind of a permissionless and unstoppable ecosystem. I think you mentioned a bit there, Itamar, the speculation that's been happening in the markets. I mean, that ultimately is crypto, right? SafeMoon went like 1,000x in like a month due to some like TikTokers and just all sorts of stuff. So we've got almost 8,000 tokens right now or more on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. At this point, there's just projects popping up left and right with high valuations and token sales. But you guys chose not to create a token. You guys chose to focus on utility, convenience, and creating a product rather than creating a token-based community. Now, you guys still have a growing community on Discord, a Twitter audience, all that stuff. I'm kind of curious what your mindset is towards the creation of tokens for protocols that may or may not need it, right? Like, what's kind of gone through your head as you've thought, and I'm sure you've received the question, like, when Argent token, like what's kind of your thought process towards creating a token for Argent and just like tokens in general for protocols that may or may not need it?
So we do get that request once in a while. I would say once every minute. And I think for us, okay, there are some principles. We want to create we think Argent can be literally the operating system of Ethereum. And for us, there are tensions there in the sense what we didn't want a token that had no utility, a fake token. And there are too many of those. So a token that serves a proper use case, yes. In many cases, a governance token is actually, there are areas that people pointed out, oh, you could have a governance token there, there, and there. But for example, you could upgrade the contracts with governance token, but that would decrease the security. Right now, Argent cannot upgrade your smart contract. They cannot touch it. You are the only one. Rob is the only one who can upgrade his own wallet. That's the best. That's properly decentralized. A governance token on that would decrease the decentralization. And often, governance, actually, I think our user would worry, oh, there's a community that can control things versus, no, it's programmatic. It's written in the smart contract. So I think it's really about finding the right use case, the right economics. And of course, if you end up where your token is just equity, you have a problem. And with people, yes, so just, oh, let's launch a governance token. And now you have the right to write something in a forum and you're happy. Yes, it's short-term gain. We're not saying it's impossible, but it's something we'll be thinking very deeply for a very long time. It's not should Argent have a token or not. It's can Argent be owned by no one? Can Argent be owned by no one and everyone, by the community? And how do you do that? There is so much. So we started with our smart contract being, it's decentralized. I mean, it's there, open source. Anyone can fork them. It's fully, everything, all the security is on chain. That part is, it's decentralized. We still have mobile apps. We still have backend infrastructure. How do you decentralize that? Especially on the backend, it has no security role, no custody role, but all the convenience comes from a lot of the work there with relayers, with pricing service. But you could imagine a world where anyone can build up an instance and start to decentralize more of the building blocks. And so I think a token needs to come with that in mind, with that roadmap. So the short answer is we need to think much, much more about that. We prefer to do it late and well than you can't move away. Once you have done it, it's too late. So we'll take our time. We think about it, but it's not our top priority right now.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like there's no rush, and it makes sense because you mentioned how Argent right now is programmable, and it's hard in the sense of security, and not malleable to change. So yeah, it really seems like there's an intention of what Argent is trying to do, and how it's trying to get there, and it's not necessarily community focused. It's more individual focused, in the sense that the individual has power over who they trust, and who their guardians are, and ultimately where they send money, and the power of control over their own smart contract.
And with that said, 𝗵𝗻, is that going to be the case for us to be able to choose like which layer 2 solution we use? Like, how is that going to look on the UI when, we've got Optimism, Arbitrum, side chains, kind of the different rollups that are going to be available? What's the selection process for the Argent, like the inner team that you guys want to choose to provide? And then, what's going to be the selection process on our side?
So when we launch on step one zk-sync, which is really native, meaning the whole app of Argent right now, you will have the same app for zk-sync or Argent within the same app, and you will be able to switch the same way you would switch from a current account and a savings account, or current account and trading account. So this would be account switcher, very clean, very simple. We keep it that way at start rather than merge it to really avoid mistakes. People need to be very clear on which layer they are, which network. We see that more as an acceptance network. You're doing an ACH transfer or credit card transfer, and when you transfer from Coinbase, you need to make sure you're on the right payment network, basically. Then once we add them, we'll start by using this pattern. So it will be very clear in which layer you are. But with Wallet Connect, these other accounts will be mostly used through Wallet Connect. And with Wallet Connect V2, you don't have to worry about that. So when you connect to a DApp, in V2 of Wallet Connect, they basically can tell you which chain they need, and you are automatically on that chain, on that layer. So it will be seamless for users.
Yeah, that's going to be super important. It's obviously there's a lot of room for error when it comes to doing the migration back from L1, L2, and then kind of just like the education of understanding what is even happening is going to be crucial. For all the guys on the marketing side, which we'll be happy to help get kind of some articles out there, perhaps just about like, okay, what is layer 2 actually, and like what can and can't you do, and how do you get back and forth? Because I've already seen just posts on Twitter about like getting stuck in bridges and sending ETH to an AVAX wallet and then having this, so it's just kind of like there's definitely a lot of room for confusion there, but the education is going to be key for the user base. And then just, making it simple as possible is going to be key. I mean, I think that's the future of kind of bringing DeFi to the masses. If that's what this, great envision is of, okay, can we make it so our users are going on an app like Cash App where it is literally so simple, but in the back end we've got a bunch of geniuses who've got these L2 and smart contracts and everything, all this deep, strong and technical stuff happening at once. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement right now in the UI space for DeFi.
And I think it's really a step. There are several steps there, but for a lot of new users, things should be easy. They will be able to buy their crypto straight on layer 2. So in Argent, they will just put their credit card, connect their bank account, and they won't go through layer 1. They will not have a layer 1 wallet. We really think the next millions of users should go straight on layer 2. They will not interact with 1,000 different protocols. Some will, but a lot will just want savings or staking maybe into ETH2 for interest, and then back to their bank account at a later stage. So for many users, for the majority, things will actually be very intuitive, very simple. Yeah. Sorry, Rob, you were saying.
No, that's great. I think the fiat straight to L2 is going to really just help push mainstream adoption. Andrew made me think of just a narrative that is really going to me, play out, and it's all about scalability, where they'll finance so that essentially the rich are receiving the same type of finance as the mainstream, and that takes a massive amount of scalability and removal of intermediaries that is coming to fruition, but certainly there's lots of work to do. So I think as these layers start to become more and more composable, we'll see more and more people move through those layers.
Are you guys planning to like integrate with some exchanges to onboard directly from exchanges to Argent layer 2 wallet? Like, is that a possibility?
Yeah, so that's not something we have to deal with directly, because we only deal with 𝗁𝗂𝗃 is one of them, but that's definitely the goal. I think there are a lot of, I do believe we might see exchanges connecting to 𝗁𝗂𝗃, Optimism, and others. If not early 2022, that would really be my hope. And I think these are discussions that are happening, and I think there are high chances for that to happen.
Awesome. Well, Itamar, this has been absolutely amazing. I think we should hop into some quick rapid fire questions. Rob can come up with some. I've got a few on my mind here, and then we can wrap it up. So yeah, I guess I'll go first. My first question is, what is the coolest thing that you've done in crypto the last month or so?
Let me think. That's a hard one. I mean, the last action I took was probably staking my ETH in Lido, then putting my STETH plus ETH in Curve, and then locking that in the Gauche. I don't know if it's the coolest thing, but that's really the
profitable
thing I did. Exactly.
All right, I'll ask one. Were you part of the NFT wave? And if so, what is your coolest looking NFT?
I'm afraid I wasn't part of that. Honestly, I missed it. I would have loved it. And I have a few NFTs, but mostly sent to me by my team. I have a lot of team member pictures on my app, but now nothing worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Is Argent ever going to have an NFT kind of display tab or option? So when I'm at the bars and I'm talking to hot girls, I can show them my cool art gallery.
So I didn't mention that actually on our recent launch, but actually Argent is making a big push on NFT. So first we have a gallery. I can see I have my 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵 NFT from 𝗵𝗵𝗵 Paris. So at the end of, you see all your assets and you see all your NFTs. It's all looking actually really great. That's a part of the pleasure of having it on your phone. But Argent now is really the only place you should consider storing expensive NFTs, because they are subject to the same security rules as assets. Meaning you can send your NFT to your trusted addresses, so your hardware wallet, yes, but anything else would require a guardian. So if the person with the 𝗵𝗶𝗴𝗵, $69 million 𝗵𝗶𝗴 is out there listening, really Argent is where you should store it. It's by far the safest place for your NFTs.
Nice. I think this is the last one I got. Okay, so the rest of the crypto ecosystem, if there's one thing that you think needs to be solved or you want to see solved, that Argent is not working on, well, what do you think the crypto ecosystem needs?
So one thing I know we will need is probably cross-L2, seamless cross-L2 bridges. I know there are a few teams working on that, so I'm quite confident, but that's a big milestone also for why Argent took a more segregated approach between L2s to start. So bridges would definitely be very important. On-ramp improvement, that's also a friction point, on-ramp and off-ramp, but I think there are really good team working on this space. So again, I'm confident that will happen. And I think the building blocks are there. We are now very close to being able to offer an experience that would work for a majority of users and for many new users in the space to really solve actual real-world problems beyond speculation. So we're looking at remittance. We are looking at trends like dollarization, people with high inflation currency who wants to hold dollar, like in Latin America, for example, where we saw a lot of users coming in the past. So there are, I think, real world problems that now we should start addressing now that we are completing this more technical foundation phase.
Yeah, and crypto and DeFi is really just is taking on a new wave of competitors. Cash App, Venmo is starting to move into that market.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Which is good. It will help adoption. It's totally fine.
My last one for you, 𝗵𝗵, is if you had to be in an elevator with any celebrity, any famous person, any rich person, anybody in the world, and give them a half-second pitch on Argent, why they should either invest in it or download it or use it or promote it and everything, if they were to partner up, who would it be and why would it be them?
Who would it? So I would tell them, look, we are reinventing money. We are reinventing the global financial system. So you might want to be part of that journey. That would probably be I tend to not pitch crypto. I don't want to tell people buy assets and be rich. So I think it's more be part of that journey. And I don't think there are probably, people trying to colonize Mars, people trying to solve climate change, cure cancer, and I think crypto is not far out there. Reinventing money is a pretty ambitious one.
And then who would you want to tell this to?
Who would it be? I'm trying to look if I have who would I want to tell that to? I don't know, I'm wondering, someone from the central bank, someone from the Fed, a president. I think more than anything else, I think crypto needs to really gain legitimacy and play. We need regulation that is clearer, more open to crypto. And so I don't know who would be the right person to try to convince that.
Yeah, somebody up there who's exactly.
It could be Biden, but I don't know how open it would be to that. So, but you know what, Bernie Sanders, I would say that I would love to be in a lift with him.
Just tell him you're
to be in the lift.
Yeah, just tell him you're SBF's buddy, and you help him on the $5 million donation, and then he'll listen to you. Good stuff, 𝗵𝗵. Well, hey, that was an absolute pleasure, man.
Awesome. Yeah, it was really fun. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Inommar, for sure.